Now, going back into the teaching environment, because this is very important, because this is all about education, training, learning, and development. Every child is unique. Every teacher will know that. And it's also very important that teachers build a positive relationship up, not with just the child, but with their carers, parents, and guardians too. Okay, and the community at large. The school should be looking about having working professional partnerships. You see, the reason why I'm mentioning this is because you might be in a classroom where you have only 5 children or young people in private education, for example, and you're in a public environment where you have 30 plus children. Do you or do you not think that the level of progress development is going to be the same? Or do you think there's going to be some major differences between the child that has only 5 other peers in its class as opposed to a child who's got 25 other peers in their class? Why am I saying this? Because I'm going back to these newly qualified teachers, but I'm also talking to all those seasoned teachers as well, to be able to be looking at things maybe possibly different. Okay. Yes, as we get older, we may get stuck in our ways and we may not be open to willing to change. But what I want you to also be appreciative and understanding of is that the life is full of challenges. And if you take away some of those letters in the word challenges, you're left with the word changes. Okay. So out of challenges, we can make changes. The question is it positive or is it going to be negative changes that we are going to be making? And more importantly, if we don't have senior management or the senior leadership team having buy-in to say, no, we're not going to be accepting teachers speaking or behaving certain ways towards certain groups of children, change is really not going to be happening. We can be promoting policies, but who's really defining what is real acceptable behavior? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, in some cultures, they're very highly animated. They're also very loud. They also may ask lots of questions. Some teachers may not like loudness, lots of questioning all the time. And therefore they're deemed as the troublemaker or the one that's disrupting everybody else from learning because they're constantly asking questions. So it's more of when we're looking at teaching for it to be a lot more holistic. In early years, we're talking about, yes, having a much more holistic approach. But the same principles that are used in early years can be used throughout the whole ages and years. Okay. And the key thing there is talking about your unique child, building up that positive relationship so that you get to know, like, and trust the child, and the child knows, likes, and trusts you, and their family do too. Because what teachers need to understand is if the child sees that you're not really interacting with my family, why should I then interact in your lessons? Because you seem to be disrespecting my family. So you need to be aware that how you're interacting is being observed all the time by the children. And as you're clearly aware that parents are the first primary positive role models for the children, okay, then the education system steps in and some may say take over. Yes. And the bottom line, what I'm getting across here is that you need to understand what do these children like and what don't they like? Why don't they like things? And maybe some of the things they don't like is because there's maybe things attached to that thing why they don't want to do whatever it is you're asking. And unless you start learning to find out a little bit about your child, your children, in particular, something as simple as the positioning of that child in the family. So you may have a child who's an only child. The only child is only going to understand the word yes. Yes, you can have it. Yes, 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 yes. They come into your education establishment and you start teaching the word no. That's foreign concept to them. They don't like no. They've never heard no. They're not going to accept no. They're willing to challenge you on no because we're used to, yes, I get everything I want. I don't need to share. I had it first, it's mine. I don't give it to anybody else. That's the only child. But now you might have, because you know in education it's all about age and stages of development. Because you can have your classroom of 5-year-olds and you can have one 5-year-old that's the only child, But you can also have another 5-year-old who's the eldest because he's got two younger siblings. So imagine that. You have this one who's only knows everything, yes, and it's all about me. And you have the other one who has to be responsible because they've got two younger siblings. So they have to act a lot more mature. They've got to learn things more quickly. They may even go without because the younger ones have to have. So imagine you're in the classroom and you've got children who are only child, and then you've also got children who have got younger siblings, okay? But then you also got children who might be in the middle child, the invisible child. Imagine, and this doesn't even have to be young children, when I'm working with teenagers, and they would say it's horrible. And even adults who are middle children now still will say it's not a great space and place to be in. Why? Imagine somebody comes to your house and you, the middle child, I'll just label you that temporarily, open the door. They're not asking, how are you? How's your little sister? How's your big brother? Then, how are you? How is that supposed to make me feel when I'm the one who just opened the door to you and I'm invisible and you're more interested in the younger one or the older one? And then you remember me. So when you're working with children, you need to also understand the positioning that they have in their family. Because if there's a middle child, that child might be craving your attention, teacher, all the time, just as much as the one who's the only child craving your attention. But the eldest child, i.e. the one who's 5 and got 2 other younger siblings, also wants your attention, because when that child is at home, everybody's focusing on the other 2 and not me. So now when I'm in school, I want you to see me. So you need to understand that there's a mixture of different children, different positioning in the family, different dynamics happening. We're all 5 years or 15 years or whatever age we're in, but we all have different stages of development. And so this whole point of going back to equality and diversity and inclusivity is very important, because some children may have not gone to a farm, gone to a zoo, been on a plane, been on a train. This may have never happened to them. So it's really important that you understand these things so that you're going to be putting in activities in your micro society classroom to enable the child to understand, this is that, and this is how it feels, and give them leadership roles, okay? And sometimes the eldest one might want to act like a baby sometimes because they miss having fun things to do because they have to always be the big one. But sometimes the big one wants to have fun and be silly too. So it's about you as the new teacher or you as a seasoned teacher, just appreciating that children come from all different walks of life. They're at different ages and different stages. And so when you're observing them, it's about having a holistic approach to your observing and not kind of pigeonholing them into certain characters to say, okay, yeah, that one typically does this all the time. Because maybe if you found out what the child really does, like why the child likes whatever this thing is, then maybe you could then segment that and integrate that into your learning. So when you're talking in a language that they enjoy, that they know. And so they're more willing to be open up to experience. Okay, we're doing maths, we're doing this. But if you're making maths very bland and very boring, and I mean, that's another major problem. In primary school, I thought maths was wonderful. By the time I got to secondary school, I hated it. Okay, why? Because of the teacher. The way how the teacher talked about it, the way the teacher engaged in the class, big turn off. And what I'm saying to you is that you need to understand when you're working with children or young people, you have a unique and beautiful opportunity to sow some beautiful seeds into their life, because you don't know that who's going to be in your classroom. That could be the next future leader, prime minister, president, CEO of whatever. You don't know. But it's such a joy, and any teacher will tell you, is that when you see some of your students later on in life, and they'll be still shouting you out, hi, miss, oh, I loved you. And this was years ago. That showed that you actually planted a beautiful seed in their life.